Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. And what Friday means is that we are here with you today, talk about everything dental, and to share some of our experiences in the past week. As you might have seen in the pre-presentation slide that we had up, we are moving these webcasts to once a month. Big reason for it is many clinics are open now, and Friday 1 p.m. Central is not really as convenient for everyone across the board to join these sessions, and also kind of an egoistical reason is that it's becoming more and more busy for us, and doing these sessions means that we're not able to reach out to more of our clients and help them individually. So we'll be moving this to once a month. We would probably set a date for July at some point next week, and we'll coordinate to send a message out there. But if you don't want to wait for the message, the easiest would be to subscribe to our channel here, just below the stream. That way you get notifications as soon as we go live or we upload new videos. So as always, we have the magnificent four with us today. We have Mike, Jay, Noel, and James joining us from the comfort of their homes. Today, we have quite a few topics to talk about. Some of them are enhancements of topics we discussed previously. And we probably are just going to jump right into it. Today, we're going to have James start with his experience throughout this week with regards to backup and data integrity. He's going to share some pleasant experiences and then some less pleasant experiences and what we all need to know and do daily or moving forward. Go ahead, Jamesers.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate that. So just to kind of catch up on since our last webcast, just basically what's going on in the West Coast region, as I've been having conversations with multiple offices, which becomes a bit of a challenge in its own because everyone calls in groups. And that's due to us also reaching out and everyone trying to connect after some lost time during the downtime as well. So it's good because I heard a few new voices in new hires that have gone on in a couple offices. But it's nice to talk to some familiar faces and familiar voices and just hear that everything's been going good with their families and their office and their team as well. So touching base in some parts in Saskatchewan, for the most part, the offices right now, through just the experience from the calls, and I still have some that I'm reaching out to. The challenges, other than the new protocols and just trying to get used to it, is kind of the biggest newness in the office, right? So it's just making sure that they're not overwhelming themselves or overwhelming their patients. They're making sure that everything's more so, like I said, in a filing order, and it just works. But it's all just getting used to it. They've had a little bit more time than other provinces to be able to get launched. So that's generally the basis of those conversations. In Alberta, it's a little bit different because you still have some that are open, and some are just going through that rephase launch right now. I learned this week that the ADA with the PPE, which was once kind of stipulated that they were going to help to coordinate the PPE being delivered out to the offices a few days before their reopening timeline. They basically let some offices know that they're kind of on their own, that's not the plan that was going to happen. I had one doctor said it's kind of like the wild west out here for PPE, where everyone's just trying to get what they can. And for a couple offices that I talked to, it's all based on that. They can only go as far as that they can get. So we spoke about some challenges there, talking to other vendors, talking to as many suppliers as possible to see through what means that you can order these. The challenge there is for a few offices, they said they have such a great relationship with their reps that they don't want to kind of cross that boundary. And it's understandable. And I don't think any rep is really going to take it to as much to heart right now as much as they want these offices to function, and they're trying to push out those supply chains as much as possible. But again, it's at a point there where everyone's kind of on their own, from what I'm understanding through my conversations. So that's the biggest challenge that's going on right now in Alberta. BC, more offices are getting kind of back to work and starting that slow phase opening again. As I've talked about in other webcasts as well, some are still kind of waiting it out throughout the rest of summer. Some aren't ready. I have 2 offices that are looking at August 1st is when they want to launch. So, they're taking all precautions for themselves, and I understand that too. Fingers crossed that we do not get a second wave, because it would be terrible for this kind of hit back to back. But again, at the same time, being optimistic about the future and seeing some of the flattening, even though that there's some more news on coronavirus right now. It sounds a little bit more positive than it does negative, so that's good. Had a lot of conversations on charting this week with offices, which is amazing. Again, it's that transformation of, and I talked to you, Alex, about this the other night, of having, creating those relationships with offices where they also understand where you're coming from. Like it's not about sales as much as it's about the need, and if you're ready for the need, and if the timing's right. And obviously for people who've kind of had it in their mind and on the back burner for a little bit, now it's right at the forefront because they're seeing the challenges. Like I said last week, when they go into the office, they realize that they have more touch points that they may not have thought about prior to opening up. And the charts is a major thing. So a lot of conversations on that, some conversations on on-site versus kind of online training for right now as well. That's just one key factor that we are taking all precautions on. Of course, we're delivering exceptional service through our training as well, making sure that everyone has full understanding, full working knowledge, but are also confident after these training sessions, that when we walk them through, that we're not just teaching them a skill set to use, but this is going to be the future of charting for them. And that they understand the program, and that we help them to customize it to make it as easy as possible as it is for them in the office. And from the people who already have it that I'm talking to, they're so grateful that they've already had it in place, because that part of that transition, it was kind of a no-brainer for them, especially coming out of this pandemic. That's just one less thing that they had to worry about beforehand. So. But it's weird because it's kind of a mix, like I said, of either Maxi chart. That's the big end of conversations. But again, there's a lot of Maxi reminder conversations going on as well. So there is a bit of a mix, but this week's been heavy on the charting. And I just kind of wanted to quickly speak on the Maxi Vault and the backups, what we offer and what other companies offer out there. To me, in my opinion, and this is just my sole opinion, and I'm sure it's shared amongst the board here, but I personally believe if your office is computerized and you have medical records within that computer range, that it should be absolutely mandatory for everybody to have a backup system in place. Like it's kind of scary that, you still have calls and there are people that are like, I don't know if I want to do that. And you can explain the benefits and everything else, but at the end of the day, it's not just the benefits of what the service is going to give you. It's the peace of mind that you're not going to have, even if something catastrophic happened, those patient records, that bread and butter of yours, that everything that you work for, that's locked away and secure. And that's at no point to be taken lightly when it comes to the security of those records. So that, like I said, that's just my strong opinion on it. But again, data needs to be a priority for offices, and some of the conversations that we're having internally and externally with not only just our office, but also some of the new offices and new clients and non-clients that we're speaking to, is kind of finding out their challenges, right? And one of the things that we can do to bring down that anxiety of that challenge for them, is letting them know, like, it's necessary to check the integrity of your data. Even for us as a company, when we're doing our backups, we go through our audits as well to make sure that the things that we're seeing as accordance to any sort of paperwork or direction that we've been given from the office is being done. We do those integrity checks as well to make sure that all that data is there for you. Creating a new restore point and creating multiple restore points throughout the year is just as important. And the risks and differences from doing external drive like USB or an external hard drive backup to having cloud backup, right? And the biggest difference is there again, and I'll just reiterate, like, it's good to have a backup no matter what. Even if you've got an external drive, there's nothing wrong with that. Just keep in mind that if you're keeping that on-prem or you're taking that home at night, God forbid anything ever happens to your on-prem, especially break-in, fire, anything that could happen, you would lose that data as well because that drive is in the office. At least with the cloud and the automated backups, it's kind of you have that peace of mind that it's on a continuous schedule. But if anything ever happened physically to the office itself or to your computer system, your network, anything, that there's still a copy that's there. So when all those things are replaceable, as we know through insurance, it's a very easy process for us to get that back in your hands, and it's safe. And again, having those conversations, it's starting a lot of thoughts for people that either one way or another, even if they have the hard drive, just acknowledging the knowledge about the cloud and what it can do is helping them to make better decisions, because now it's opening up a conversation for them. And for the people who don't have it, at least it's giving them the choices to think right now on that priority level. Because again, we there's experiences all the way around the block in the industry. It's not to any one company or anything like that. But one thing that was an example that came up is an office recently had some folder changes, and that was done on their imaging software side. Neither the imaging software or the office had called us. And through an audit that we were doing and doing an integrity check, we noticed that the file sizes it didn't look right to us. So upon inspection and having that conversation and reaching out and doing our due diligence for you, what ended up happening was we identified it, and now everything's backed up. We've got the correct schedule, got the correct pathway done, and we're going to keep monitoring that to make sure that that's everything that they want at all times. But that's what I mean is when you have a cloud backup in a system where you can actually see it, and you get the emails every day that says, yeah, this is successful, and is just letting you know. It's just a non-hassle thing to go through, but it really helps us as well, any company that's doing any sort of cloud backup for you, to identify those problems and help you through any challenges that you may have or something that you see that isn't correct. There's an office that we experienced that was hit with ransomware over the break as well. It not maintaining or going in and checking up, every couple of days on the computer system or whatever. I don't know the full extent of how it all happened, but it did happen. And again, luckily having a backup system helps in these situations. But there are other offices that I've experienced over the last 2 years that have been hit as well. And you just want to make sure that everything is safe and protected, especially through restarting, because right now is a good time, if you're going to reopen, to contact your vendor, contact your reps, your account managers, everybody that deals with everything, and just make sure that everyone's at least talking and everything's still on board. And if anything's changed, that needs to be communicated, because you just want to minimize any sort of risk for yourself, especially through this time. And the last point that I wanted to make here before I jump off is, for our Maxident family, we offer MaxiVault. We also offer MaxiVault to non-offices of ours as well. It's having a cloud backup is important in my opinion, but just so you know, like if you're with a different software vendor or your IT company backs it up, we just want you to have your peace of mind that it's being backed up. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be us. It doesn't have to be the next guy. But as long as you have something in place, that's the most important factor that we have as advice to anybody. And just make sure again that you're in constant communication with those people, because they're holding all your data in one place. You want to make sure that that's always safe and secure. So having those conversations have brought out a lot of other conversations. So it's a very successful week, I believe. Still a lot of catch up to do, but that's pretty much what I have from my end.
Awesome, James. Thank you very much. And to top what you were saying, a lot of people would tell you that, vendors, when they do your backup, they're going to say, yeah, don't worry about it. We have it covered. Well, you should worry about it. This is the most genuine and honest thing that you probably heard this week. Worry about it, because things change, and if the only time that you are looking at your backup is when you have a disaster, you are bound to see surprises. So make sure that you look at your backup periodically. What is periodically? Once a quarter. Take a look, make sure it backs up all the right stuff, restore it in order for you to check two things. One, that your backup is actually restorable and usable, and two, to know exactly how long it takes to recover from a disaster. That's very important, because if your backup and everything is good, but it's going to take you 6 hours to restore the data, then it's something you need to take into account when you're building a disaster recovery plan. So make sure that you do that. Now, as just to add 2 points that I feel are very important, and I posted it also on the comments here. First of all, make sure that you have more than one backup of your data. Always have 2 or more. The reason? Well, life happens. So you want to make sure that you have more than one backup of all of your files. That's very, very important. The second thing is, whether you're the owner or an associate or one of the team members, make sure that the office has cyber insurance that covers all the various occurrences. It's good for 2 reasons. 1, peace of mind when disaster happens, and 2, they will, just by writing the policy, will do an audit of your backup in your system to see how vulnerable it is, because that's going to affect your premium and the insurance company's risk, obviously. So you get a free audit, and worst case scenario, you don't want to buy it, but they already reviewed all of your policies and processes and told you what needs to be changed. So there's really no there's only benefits to going through this process, and you should do this. If you don't have it, you should do this right away. If you do have it, then that's very good, and I applaud you. So that's very good. I think we want to go. We're already 20 minutes in, so we want to move ahead. Our second topic of the day deals with mostly reporting that you need for when you reopen. When we're talking about things like submitting all kinds of production reports to the government for the various federal plans, or whether you're looking at reports to just figure out, okay, so we're back, what do we do now? You want to base it all on data. So Jay's gonna cover, his experiences throughout the week dealing with the myriad of reports that offices are looking for, and other random requests from offices that are reopening.
All right. Thank you, Alex. And good afternoon, good morning to you guys that's watching and that's with us this Friday. Reporting. So we when we talk about reopening, everybody was scrambling through through the details, the processes, and all that. Now that you had reopened, now, like, maybe if you're an office manager, or if you're a receptionist, or you're the owner yourself, you're the dentist, and you want to apply, your accountant maybe asking you for for some reports, especially for those of you that will be filing for insurance. The most common report that's being asked would be a comparison of your production. So whatever system that you guys may have, I mean, this is a very basic report. So whether you have Maxident or another practice management software, there should be a production report that you can pull. Now the comparison would be from I've had variety of requests, like from like 1 year, like the previous year, or 3 months prior to COVID, and then the production that came in within the shutdown period. So that's through the production report, and payment reports as well. So money that's coming in. So those are the two major things that are being asked. And again, if you don't have this report, I don't know, then you need to switch to a software that would have that. I mean, that's absurd that you would not have that now. But talk. Another reporting that we've been getting a lot is on canceled appointments. You want to see, because everybody had canceled their appointments through that 3-month period. Now you want to book them in, but then you want to book them in accordingly, because some offices don't know, like they're scrambling, like, okay, well, how about those appointments that are actually scheduled now? Then you don't have to move anything that's already booked, that's actually booked for July, and then you just fill in those spots and then you call them. But then the next question is, it's not just booking in and saying, hey, these are the canceled appointments, and you have to be smart about it. There's two approaches to it. There's two approaches to looking at booking the right people. Because I don't know if for some of you guys that are new to what we've been doing, we have a software called that sits on top of our program, that's called the Dental Dashboard. So it looks at three major components. It looks at the recalls, if there are anything booked in the future, and treatment plans, whether if they're unbooked, basic or major treatments, and then the financial aspect of it, like the account receivables, the billing per hour, and the production for your hygienist. So these are that's one aspect of looking at it. And the reason why I brought that up is because that is one approach where you would look at the recalls. And the reason why is because for some offices, and this is based on conversation, there are offices that doesn't care. Well, that doesn't care. I don't want to put it that way, but they care. That's why they're doing this. So they don't mind booking like whatever that is. So whether that is just a recall, regular visit, regular cleaning, or if it's a major treatment. So they don't mind. Like they don't really plan it out that, okay, well, Mondays this is what we're gonna do, or half of the day this is what they're gonna do. But then there are offices that would actually do that, would actually strategize the way they're booking, because they look at the patient's the patient what do you call this, the average billing per patient. So for some, let's say, and then not some, I see this as, for most offices, that when they look at their schedule, we're busy, we're good, we're fully booked. But then if you would look at the billing per patient, it's like, let's say, this is just an example, let's say $200, compared to an office that is less than that, or half of that, that's booked, but then their billing per hour would be like, $400. So So I mean, which one is more successful? So it depends. I don't know how you look at your success, but these are the things that you need to know. And so that's why it's important that you don't just we don't like there's so many reports that gets thrown at us, but you don't know how to analyze them, right? So you have to know what you want to do for your practice. Now, another thing that is important is that they get from us would be patient listing, because you want to know how many existing patients that you have on the system. And I've read somewhere that it is actually more important, like to this season, since we went into we've entered this new normal that we say, is like not to focus. I'm not saying like disregard it, but not to focus on new patients for now, because like there's so many things that offices are already doing, and then to put your full efforts on that, and like a lot of your blood and sweat on that, it's hard to actually keep them. The time that you're spending for a new patient would actually cost like dollar value more, and your actual workload more. And then that's just getting them in, but then keeping them is another story, right? So that's why they request for patient listing, is because you would want to know who are your existing patients. Because if you have your existing patients, then these are your main focus for now. Get in touch with them, communicate with them, try to get them back. And now that you have that now that you have that patient listing, another thing that you might want to look at now is the treatment plan. Because not everybody, like here, I know for some, like we're slowly opening the treatments, like all types of treatments now, like almost like slowly. So even for hygiene, yes, you're filling that in your booking, but then don't forget about these major treatments, right? And then because these are the important ones, that like these are not just important in like the health aspect of the patient, but then also important in the health aspect of your business, dollar wise, right? Because these are like the major treatments, and they cost more, and they actually work hand in hand, right? Because if you focus on that, then it would not worsen, and then everything is taken care of. Then oral health is of that patient has been provided, and then your company is actually getting that cash flow that you're wanting. So so those are the things that are that you need to know. Just focus on like identifying the right patient and scheduling them at the right time. And just to recap, so make sure you have access to your patient listing. You have access to your canceled appointments. You have access to your production and your payment report, and then definitely your recall. Your recall and treatment plan report. So and then I'm not saying that that's your only focus, but then for now, make sure you get that. You have that in like as a regular thing that you look at, and then look at the other things as you progress. So yeah. So if you want to know more about that, and let's say you're a Maxident user, and you want to know what reports are available to you, aside from the day end, because for most offices, they just hit close day, they print it out, submit it to their either the office manager, the owner, or the accountant. They don't even bother looking at the other report. I don't know what this is. I print it out. But for those of you that actually care for the practice and want to look deeper into what you're reading, then reach out to us, and we can walk you through and show you to the right report that you need.
Awesome, Jay. Thank you very much. I think it's very important to, for me at least, to determine, at least for my business, and everyone would determine for theirs, how do we decide to manage things? We can manage things through emotion, or we can manage things through numbers. And you should always manage things through numbers, because emotions throw you off. Numbers never lie. percentages lie. Numbers never lie. So numbers you need to get from your data, because that is where the numbers are accurate. And you need to know which numbers you need to look for. You need to know where to get them. And then you need to understand how to interpret them into actionable and action items, and then take action. Versus managing through emotion, through gut feeling, saying, "Oh yeah, I think we should call these patients." Don't think. Work on in a very systemic way, step by step, and I'm pretty sure that any of the team members here would gladly walk you through what are the important numbers, like Jay mentioned, where you can find them, whether you are a client or not, and how you can leverage that for your particular clinic. So that's my personal takeaway from Jay's point, and that's, I think, is very important for everyone. So good stuff. Moving on the next topic here is something that's been pretty hot topic with offices opening more and more across the country. We're seeing more work done ahead of the appointment. We're seeing more documentation, screening, pre-screening, pre-screening. There was a big article in the news of a patient in Ontario that was basically denied service after he confirmed that he was a COVID-19 positive, in the past. So they basically refused to treat him. It hit the news, obviously, with all the PPE guideline conflicts between the colleges and everything. And there's almost an article every day about this conflict. This week for sure. The journalists are very happy because now they have a new topic to write about. So now their job is good. I read an article that Public Health of Ontario said that they're not going to intervene, and they would let the colleges figure it out on their own, which is kind of weird, but that's the reality. So we wait to see what's going to happen between the two regulators. We talked about it last week, and this is still ongoing. So hopefully they can figure it out. But practically speaking, for our offices, what they're doing is they are trying to identify what is the level of risk of treating this patient to determine whether it's worth bringing them in to treat them with whatever is the treatment that they require. And there's a lot of logistics behind all of it. And Mike here is going to touch upon, Noel is going to touch upon the screening and pre-screening. Yeah, sorry. And is going to share a little bit about his experiences throughout the week and how that has been going on.
Thank you, Alex, and good day to everyone. Yep, I'd like to share with you about my conversation with a dentist and a hygienist office throughout the week all over the Canada. And one of the hot topic really is how are we going to do the screening, pre-screenings, and all that kind of stuff. And one, of course, the pre-screening is how are you going to send these forms to your clients. And there's many ways to do that. One is you can do the old-fashioned way of scan the forms, email it to them, have them fill out, and send it back. Now, how are you going to incorporate that with the patients, and that you can identify that this forms is for the patients? Number one is to the email address. So when they hit reply, you can search the patients with that email address, and you can attach it to the document manager. And the other way is to send that pre-screening is if you are a Maxi Reminder users, you can email you can create your template and with attaching the unique identifier for the patients. In this case, you can use the patient ID, and you have to revise the instructions on how to reply. So let's say you have 10 questions, and all these questionnaires are answerable by yes or no. So you have to make instructions that they have to write down the number and the answer to those questions. Right now, when it comes to the office, like the in-office screening, as I call it, um, number one is you can add it to the patient document manager. Oh, no, I'm sorry, patient medical form. So in patient medical forms, at the end of the page, third page, there's an option there to add those questions. So they can fill up the answer, and they can also capture signature. So they will be stored in their medical forms. Now, the other thing is you can also create a PDF form, and you can send it to them. So again, this you can print it, you can save this after the fill out, or patient fill out the form, I mean, and then you can add that to the document manager as well. So far, that's it for me today, and you guys enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, Noel. So yeah, many conversations. We've done things with the document manager, like Noel said. There's fillable PDFs, updates to the medical questionnaire. Many ways of doing that. Some are using Google Forms or Microsoft Forms. The only thing that is challenging, when dealing with these clients, is explaining to them the privacy implications of using each method. When the patient sends you in an email their medical questionnaire, depending on the questions you have there might be a potential privacy concern. Now, yes, the patient has selected to send their information in an unsecure way. The question is, does the patient know, and do they just accept the fact that if you email and say, please fill and return, that you mean, that you imply that you return it via the same email? So I think when you're looking at how can you protect your patient's privacy, you want to share with them ways that are secure, that will help them send it in a secure way. I think that's very important to note, and a lot of people are focused on just getting that documentation versus getting it in the right way while protecting yourself and your patient. So I think that's very important to keep in mind, that through the operations, don't forget security, don't forget privacy, because again, like we talked about backup and data integrity, if you only look at it when something happens, when there's a complaint, when there's a breach, then you might be suffering some consequences that you might have avoided. So I think that's very important to note as well. I know that throughout these YouTube broadcasts, we have made many suggestions in terms of how you can leverage the time, the break, the downtime, to really hit the ground running. And I'm very happy that a lot of offices have actually heard us and were able to take steps. However, there are offices that have not, and they are now scrambling, trying to figure out how to kickstart their clinic from zero, while already, for the owner, incurring expenses, whether it's the equipment, the retrofitting of the office, the PPE, and all of the other types of expenses that we're seeing. So our next topic today, and Mike is gonna spearhead this, is about planning and preparation, obviously, versus not planning and not preparing, and basically just panicking. So that's kind of the experiences that we've been seeing, and that's across the board as well. Mike's going to touch on that and share with us a few stories here.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, absolutely. Good day, everyone, first of all. And then kind of jumping on to your segue onto this topic, rebooking of patients and that kind of organization is a big factor. I've been talking to a fair share of clinics across Eastern Canada, and what it really came down to is when the office spoke about pre-planning and getting all that information, prioritizing the patients that they should be calling back, what kind of treatments that they're going to want to focus on right away, as well as the missed appointments and getting those rebooked as soon as possible. Well, the offices, like I said, that planned for that, got those papers ready, had a bit of like a procedure in place to get all that back into the scheduler. They've been very collective. Though they are still very busy and their days are just getting eaten up a bit with being on the phone all the time, they're still calm and collective. Whereas the offices that kind of walked in and they had maybe a very base plan as to how they're going to get started, but they never really took that initiative to prep, say, a week before or something in that nature. You can definitely hear in their tone of voice that there is a little bit of panic in the office as they're trying to get all that information all organized. I think what's really important here is you should take that time to really get all your just essentially everything in line there. So once you're back into the office, you just get started right away and you can start getting everything rebooked rather than trying to put those pieces all together when you first get into the office and open up. Whereas I've also dealt with situations where Noel was mentioning about the fillable PDF for like a COVID form. I personally have heard also for a medical questionnaire as they're looking to reduce those touch points inside the office. So one thing that has been mentioned already, we do have an opportunity where we can turn a PDF into a fillable PDF where the patient can sign as well. And this can be all done, say, through like a Surface tablet. And then that just is one touch point that is a quick sanitization process, and then you can continue to use that. Whereas I've also heard of some offices getting creative, and they still use that fillable PDF style. But as something that's been mentioned across the board, and that's returning that information and making sure it's a secured communication method when you return it, that you're not returning that exposed health information. So offices have gone ahead and created a secure drop zone essentially on their website. So then a patient can download the form off their website and then re-upload it onto it, and then the office can get access to it from there and can enter that information into the system before the patient's even in the office, taking out that touch point completely. So again, if this is something that say your office is about to open up, you're still looking to get those plans, that would be something I would highly recommend just looking into. Like always, you can reach out to us, and we're more than happy with assisting you on getting those forms digitalized and fillable as well. There's two other things that have been coming up a lot in my region as well. One of them being reinstating their accounts. What I've noticed is a lot of offices, they got back into the office, and with the hype of getting everything rebooked and getting the kind of the wheels spinning in a way, they kind of forgot to reach out and reinstate all those accounts that they froze previously. And I personally think it's fairly important to get that taken care of right away. And the reason being is when you get that momentum going, you don't want to be abruptly stopped because you now need to reinstate an account and go through that process. Instead, I'd much rather see that the office has a stream, a flow going, and where you're able to get all that information going through. So really across the board, this could be a support aspect, or it can be even essential as just phone services such as putting that on hold, as a lot of things are separated in all different offices. So that's something that you'll definitely not want to forget about when going back into the office there. And then another item that's been mentioned is internal messaging. So with all the new regulations that are coming into place now, there has been two scenarios I keep hearing that come up almost on a daily basis, really. And that would be when the doctor's in the operatory with the patient, it's not very good practice for that doctor to be leaving, as you'll want to keep everything contained into that one operatory. So then that poses a bit of a challenge when it comes to talking to the rest of the team. Say if there is needed assistance somewhere, then there's no real way to get that across. On the other hand, then there's also a scenario where receptionists are still working at home and the doctor's in the office. So now you've got this cross communication between the two points there. And the communication, it's not too complicated, but the one thing that is important to understand is when you're looking for an internal messaging system, you need to think about what kind of information you're going to be talking about through that system. Such as if you're talking about a patient, you got to be very wary about if you're talking about patient health information, things of that nature. And the same thing still applies to where it's an unencrypted communication method. So one thing that you really want to pay attention to is if that is getting out into the internet, kind of how that communication is working. There are tools that allow like an encrypted method to still be able to work inside the office computers while being at home. So that'll take care of the receptionist who's working at home sort of situation. And as well, you can still use that same method to allow that doctor who's in the operatory to still have that communication with the team. And then that way there's a streamline across the whole office. No one's losing their momentum, and you guys are able to continue getting your schedules rebooked and your patients seen and communicated with. So this has been pretty much the main conversations I've been handling all week, and that's really what I really want you guys to see is that taking those steps to plan, taking those steps to essentially look at those unknown items, the things that kind of escape your mind when you're in the midst of everything. Those things can sometimes sneak up on you, and I definitely don't want to hear that happening for your office. I would only want the best for you all. So that's all for me today, and I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mike. I think there's a lot of unknowns today, but there is definitely one thing that no one can dispute. Things are going more digital. And as they are going more digital, you can either join this party or you're going to be left behind. Touching upon things like backup and privacy and security, these are the things that are going to become more and more important, more prevalent, and dangerous. And as such, like I said, reviewing your policies for security, for privacy, understanding what are the digital tools that you are going to need, potentially prioritizing them based on the biggest return, the biggest impact, and price, and then having a plan where you execute these things step by step and reap the rewards. But always do it in a very cautious way, because everything you digitize creates data, and data has vulnerabilities. So you must know the vulnerabilities and make sure you address them in the proper way. So digitizing is good. Digitizing without thinking about security is very bad. So, part of planning and preparation, that dental clinics are going to be more digitized. It's obvious. That is the future. What else is the future? Well, potentially what I'm hearing is in airports, they're going to have automatic devices that are going to do a pre-screening for you. They're going to measure your temperature. They're going to do all of that. So maybe this is the future of high rises. Maybe this is the future of dental clinics that are storefront. You have a pre-screening station, and if you're good and they're expecting you, the door is going to be unlocked, and you're going to be able to go and actually, go into the business. Otherwise, you might not be able to visit that particular establishment. So I think when we're looking at this, these are the things you need to start thinking of right now, and hopefully it's, you're gonna be able to, like Mike said, reap the rewards and be able to really capitalize on the things that you worked for really hard, because privacy and security is not, light reading material. Trust me, I read a lot of this stuff. One topic that I want to touch upon before we kind of wrap it for June. This week I did a webinar with an international speaker and an author of 10 and soon 11 books. His name's David Noor. He's from Atlanta. And this guy is amazing. And all of his books and his entire company is built around connections and their value to your business, to you personally, and how you can build real meaningful connections that are going to help you throughout life. And this is kind of my point for today that I want to leave with everyone is you have to understand that the connections and the relationships you build with the patients are not just because they're patients. They have connections. They have connections to vendors who potentially have PPE. They might have connections with IT people who are going to help you with security. You never know. It's not just about referring another patient. These are people. They have connections. They have lives. They have professions, and it's an amazing thing where you can just have a community of people, of clients, of patients. The same thing, you need to look at your vendors, and you need to look at your neighboring businesses. If you're in a strip mall, if you're in a high rise, there are businesses around you. Working with them together on some projects can save you a lot of time and can open you to new horizons. I'll give you a little example. We're talking about social media. Everyone always complains, well, we don't have, the manpower to post once or twice a day. It's a lot of posts. We need to come up with that. Well, you don't. If you have 10 businesses around you, work with them together, come up with a plan with posts and cross promote, and you have these posts created. Then you have 10 times, 9 times less posts to write, and everyone benefits, and you create a community around your business. So think about connections, and through the connections, don't just friend people on LinkedIn, but engage in conversation. See who they are. What are their struggles? Maybe you can help. Maybe they will help you. These are the ways to build meaningful connections. And then when you have those connections, when they are powerful relationship with people that actually care about each other, you have conversations. Those conversations bring innovation, and it's going to bring innovation to how you manage your business, and you're going to help people and help yourself. So I think that's kind of my point today. I don't want to take too long because I did obviously a 1 hour webinar with David on this, and we could probably go for a whole day. But the idea is, yeah, it's digital, yeah, physical distancing, everything is true. But that doesn't change the fact that we're human, and people need to come together to have great ideas and to have strength. So don't forget that, and look at new ways of how you can engage with your patients, not just as a dental clinic, and look at everyone as an extension of your business. So keep that in mind. If you want to discuss any innovative way that you want to help build your connections and relationships with the businesses around you, physically and virtually, then feel free. We would love to have a chat and help you on that front, and even make some connections through us. Connections are free. So on that note, I think we're gonna wrap this up. It's not goodbye. We're gonna still do this monthly, and we're gonna come up with more experiences to share, more ideas, more services, more everything to help you tackle whatever challenges come your way and grow together with you, because that is the only way that we know how to do business. So I want to thank everyone for watching, subscribing, sharing. As always, feel free to reach out to us. What we do for a living is having conversations on a myriad of topics and just thinking out loud together. So thank you very much. Guys, anything to add before we wrap this up? Okay, so the general nod or no. That's good. Thank you very much, everyone. We will see you back in, not back, but we will see you in July. Thank you very much, and we'll see you then.